Hi, kids. I wanted to talk to you to see how you guys are doing. Kasha, Joshua, Andrew, Kyle, Nilla, uh, Sarah, and Jamie. I mean, I love you guys all and I miss you. I know I don't get to see you anyhow that much because I'm pretty busy. Um, and I do have Addison and Zachary come and visit me. I don't get to see Pietrushik. I wish I get to see you, Pietrushik. Um, so I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about, have a few talks with you about, different things such as, this lockdown, coronavirus, possibly my beliefs, my faith and everything else has been strong. And it's only getting stronger as I'm getting older, I guess, expecting the end coming near. Also, I want to talk to you about, marriage, especially to, Andrew and Jamie, who's about to get married in October. And Kasha and I have talked about it and about a few things and my ideas because of... It's not so much as advice as opposed to what the purpose of marriage is and the purpose of our lives are. Not just as married people, but as what marriage really means. And I think the world has distorted that, okay? So I wanted to talk to you about it. One of the things I also wanted to do was talk to you a little bit about, divorce. And these are just topics I wanted to talk to you guys about that I always wanted to talk to you, and I haven't had a chance to. But since now I don't get to see you guys, and I don't know when I'm going to get a chance to see you guys, I would really like to possibly talk through this because most of my meetings now have been through the phone, through Zoom. All our meetings are through conferences and that, and I'm kind of getting used to this sort of thing. So let's talk a little bit about this coronavirus, this lockdown, and everything else. I am doing fine. I am working very well with the ambulance, still as a paramedic. I'm working just about every day. Sundays through Wednesdays I am working. So I work 4 days a week, 12-hour days. Sometimes they last longer to 16 to 18 hours. So it gets to be long days in an ambulance dealing with people that are sick and injured. But that's what I love to do. The interesting thing about this lockdown and coronavirus is not as many people are going to the hospital for minor things. They're now definitely calling us for real emergencies. So more and more sick people are going to the hospital, but they are going because they really need to, or sometimes wait to the last minute. I don't know. So that's what I find in the lockdown. With this lockdown thing. I have mixed feelings about it. I think lockdowns are necessary in that the places that are infected, that has the most of this infections, where we know where the infections are, ought to be locked down and that nobody can come in or out for visiting or whatsoever because of this. Those are the areas that should be quarantined. Not necessarily convinced that the lockdown for the whole country and slowing down businesses and interrupting people's lives is really that beneficial for this. We have to treat this similar to any other infection, any other virus of sorts, but I don't know what has gone on. I think the world has lost its mind, personally. I think or the state government has really lost its mind on this one. I could understand the initial lockdown for a few weeks just to see. I know what they were trying to do. They were trying to flatten the curve. Otherwise, they were suspecting that we would be swamped with all these cases that the hospitals wouldn't be able to handle them. But that's usually normally the case for any time we have an infections, and whether it's a flu or so forth. So I think everybody's going to catch this. I think everybody's going to get the coronavirus. It's whether your body builds up the immune system for it, builds up the antibodies for it. Some people have probably already been exposed to it and are not even aware of it. They are asymptomatic. And so we know that the incubation period for this particular virus is a long one, where you become asymptomatic. So most of the time it doesn't show up for 14 days. That's been proven. The prodromal period is probably just the same, where you only have slight discomfort, slight fevers, sore throat that you might recognize. The acute illness seems to happen where you can specify exactly what's the problem, such as shortness of breath, pneumonia type thing. And that is usually, and it becomes worse for people who are already immunocompromised, who already are sick, and they become worse. So we find it more in the elderly and those who are already immunocompromised. They have like chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, congestive heart failure, already had pneumonia and it's just gotten worse. So those are the things that we're seeing. Now, I have come in contact with people with coronavirus or been tested positive. And I assure you that we're pretty well protected for the most part. It's not as gloomy as a lot of people seem to make us out to be. I am screened every day before we go into work. We have to take our temperature through an ear probe, all right, a temporal reading to what our temperature is, and we cannot work if it's above 37.7. That's 100 degrees, 100.1 degrees. So it's 100 degrees, 0.1, that we cannot work in the field. We are automatically got to go home, and then we're quarantined for 14 days. If we have that, we've had one person at work that had that with a cough and was sent home. Was also tested, was sent to the hospital to be tested first to make sure whether she had it or not. We also take a pulmonary test, or we do screening to make sure we, for other things such as, screen for a sore throat, dry cough, runny nose. We also take a pulmonary test of whether we can hold our breath for a count of 10, and what our pulmonary strength is and how well we can blow or exhale air. So, and then when we're on there, our precautions are we're wearing a mask at all times on an ambulance when we have a patient on board. Otherwise, when we're sitting up front, we're not wearing a mask with each other, with our partner. But when we do go out in public, or when we do have a patient come on board, everybody is wearing a mask and goggles for this. So anytime we are out in the public, or anytime we have a patient on board, we are wearing a mask in the ambulance itself. And then we always have to wear a mask in the hospitals with goggles. Now, if it's a true known COVID positive patient, we are not only gowned, we are not only masked, but we have two masks that we usually have. We have an N95 mask, and then we have a surgical mask on top of it. So we usually are double masked. Now the N95 is a pretty good protection against this virus, but we also put a surgical mask on over it. We're not taking any chances. We also put goggles or a face shield over our face as well. And we wear gowns, and we wear coverings over all of us, our shoes, our gowns. Sometimes in extreme cases, we are dressed up like a spaceman, where we have a Tyvek suit with a hood and everything else. But most of the time we just gown up, and that's when we get to the hospital, we take all that clothes off and we scrub down our stretchers, we disinfect everything, and then we also disinfect our ambulance before we go back into service. So it's a lengthy process, but we're very careful. We wash or scrub everything down with bleach and water and some soap and water, this special soap that we have, and kind of disinfect and decon the whole ambulance after every call. We've made sure of that. So we've been already wearing these masks, even though, now Cuomo is making everybody wear a mask when you go out in public. I do agree with the social distancing. Keep away from others more than 6 feet, unless, your significant other or your, that you're normally with, and family and that. But I would say that among strangers, keep 6 feet away from them. Social distancing is good. Wearing the mask out in public. I have some mixed reviews about that. I was wearing the mask even when I went to Walmart a few times and people looked at me strange and all that. And I thought, well, you know what? Maybe I'm a jerk about this. One, I will tell you this. The only masks that will probably work out in public are against this virus itself is an N95, which we don't even have enough for healthcare workers, for people in the hospitals, what we wear, and in an ambulance. And the other mask that would help is a regular procedural or surgical mask. I don't understand why the CDC or a lot of other people have lost their minds. Cloth masks just don't do it. Bandanas don't do it. The fibers are too far apart where this virus can easily go through those just as well as if you didn't have a mask at all. So I don't think it makes a bit of difference of whether you're wearing a bandana over your face or you're wearing a cloth mask over your face or you're wearing one of these dust masks over your face. I don't think it's going to help at all. That because they're only made for, some of the dust masks and all that's made for big particles. We're talking, 100 nanometers is one of the viruses that get through, and there's millions of them. And unless you have a real fine mask like an N95 or a surgical mask, it's just not going to stop it. So. Even a surgical mask may not stop all of it. Some of it will probably still get through. But an N95 mask usually works because we have to test seal it. We are put into a chamber where we breathe air in. We're in this mask to make sure we maintain a good seal because it seals right around our face. So once we have one that fits us and that, we keep that for good. Until we have to get retested again what size and form it to our face. So I'm not so sure masks are all that beneficial out in public as better than, social distancing. I don't think, I think that's a big waste myself for that. So with that in mind, if you guys have any questions, please text me or call me. Some of the sites that I would recommend if you want to know more about coronavirus itself, I would talk to, I like following Dr. Z-Dog or Doc Vader on Facebook. He's a nice guy. He's a hospitalist from California, out in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay, but he usually has pretty good guests on his podcast or on his shows or on his videos that explain a lot of things, specialists that are epidemiologists, virologists. His wife happens to be a radiologist, so she gets on once in a while. And doctors from intensive care units from in New York City and all across the country. So Dr. Z-Dog is one of them. His name is Zubin Damata. Dr. Zubin Damata. Another doctor that I follow is Dr. Breen on Facebook, and another doctor that I admire. It's on Facebook and also on Twitter, and that's Dr. Ayodhya Shiva. Dr. Shiva. He's more of a biologist and a systems analyst. He's from MIT. He's running for mayor in Massachusetts, but he's his thoughts on this coronavirus as well as political things. He's a little more political, but I think you might understand where he's coming from on this basis. I'm having a hard time, but I'm trying to keep politics out of this. I've already argued with a doctor already, who's a good friend of mine that I've worked with on this. I don't think the panic and the fear mongering that's going on that the media is causing is a little bit. So with that, give me a call. I'll be glad to talk to you. Thanks. And I love you guys. Bye. Yachikoham.